Silliman University is a private research university in Dumaguete City, Negros Oriental, Philippines. Established in 1901, it is the first American and Protestant-founded institution of higher learning in the Philippines and in Asia. Silliman joins the ranks of prestigious Philippine universities and is humbled by a gift of a location that speaks of the natural environment's complement to academic learning, one feature that sets Silliman apart from the rest. Silliman's goal of building competence, character, and faith anchored in the gospel of Christ that aims with the development of the whole person. Silliman therefore envisions a genuine quality Christian education as a result of interaction of experiences from these 5 venues, also known as the 5 C's of Silliman: classroom, church, cultural center, court, and the community. The university also aims to foster technological innovation and entrepreneurial talents, as well as develop innovative products and services that will contribute to the economic growth and progress of the country. Hence, the establishment of SUTBI in 2019 and KTTO in 2021. Under the university's Research and Development Center, headed by Dr. Enrique Oracion. The SUTBI and KTTO is where ideas are born, developed, and protected. Among the esteemed mentors of the offices, let us meet the university's TBI and KTTO team. Mrs. Janice Antoniette Forster, SUTBI Manager. Engineer Clint Ian Ostero, SU ITSO Manager and KTTO Project Leader. Engineer Junmar Bulim, Science Research Specialist. Neil Anthony Malihan, SUTBI Staff. Christiana Marie Bato, University Research Associate. Sydney Tan, External University Research Associate. Welcome to Silliman University's TBI and KTTO. Come and let us explore. Have any brilliant ideas or products in energy, education, Internet of Things, marine, environment, and business? Then here is what SUTBI can do for you. We can give you access to available facilities, services, and equipment for product research and prototyping. We can also arrange for collaborative partnerships, networking events, and investor pitching. For students, we can also give you access to the Mariano Lao Capstone Fund of 100,000 pesos and other funding opportunities. We can also provide assistance in securing, commercializing, licensing, and protecting your intellectual property. So, let SUTBI build doors for you. We apologized for the short technical difficulty that we had earlier, but good morning, everyone. And although we are battling the Monday blues, I am excited to see a lot of participants that are very eager to learn. And I believe more are still entering the Zoom meeting. So before everything else, allow me to introduce myself. My name is Sydney Tan. I am the External Research Associate of the Knowledge and Technology Transfer Office in Silliman University. So, all right, to set everyone for this virtual webinar, let me remind you all with our webinar rules, and please keep them in mind in the stretch of this webinar. So for easy identification, please rename your Zoom into your first name underscore last name underscore the school, college, or organization that you belong to. And for a smooth sailing webinar, please mute your microphone and turn off your web cameras during the presentation. And lastly, utilize the chat box for your questions, and they will be addressed during the Q&A session. Okay. And I do hope again that everyone is looking forward because I am feeling thrilled for today's discussion. So, for those that have problems with presenting your business ideas and ventures in a way that will attract investors and potential users, worry no more because we got you covered. So, on our 12 webinar series, we will be discussing the different considerations in making the perfect pitch. So there are various considerations you should make if you're getting ready to draft a business pitch deck for your startup or new business strategy. And on this webinar series, we will help you understand how to present your business plan to potential investors in order to obtain funding. So investors must understand your business venture through the pitch. And in the same manner, one must understand how to convey the right message to appeal to customers and users. So today we will be joined by two esteemed guest speakers who will guide us on how to make the perfect pitch. So on the Zoom chat, you can find the link for the Zoom background and feel free to access them and use it during the webinar. And just a little bit of hint, I would like you guys to really use that so that we will look very beautiful in our photo op at the end of this webinar. So for the success of this webinar, let us seek guidance from the Almighty Father and anchor this webinar into His glory. And the singing of the national anthem will then follow.
Dear God, thank you for the opportunity to meet together. Please help us to come together to make this institution reflect your kingdom. Breathe life into our ideas and decisions. Help us build a team that has love and respect at its heart. Give us the strength to continue working for your kingdom in this time of pandemic. Lord, come give us the inspiration to be the best we can be. May we be a shining example of your goodness and truth within, wherever we are. Inspire our thoughts, discussions, and ideas, and continue to remind us that all that we do here today, all that we accomplish, is for the pursuit of truth for the greater glory of you. We ask these things in your name. Amen.
Mga kababayan, ang pambansang awit ng Pilipinas.
Kayang mag-ibig, telas ng silanganan, alam ng puso, sa dikit mo'y buhay. Lupang hinirang, tuyak ka ng magiting, sa manlulupin, di ka pasisigil, sa nagagang tutok sa simoy at sa langit mong pagaw, ay hinatang tulang awit sa pagkayang minamahal. Ang isang ng matawad mo'y tagumpay na nag-iingin, ang bituin at araw niya kailan pamay di magdidinig. Luman ang araw ng walang pagsinta, buhay langit sa piling mo. Ang hinigaya na pagkay mga amin, ang mamatay ng dahil sa'yo.
And at this juncture, allow me to introduce our ITSO manager and KTTO project leader, Engineer Clint Ian Ostero, for the opening remarks. Let us all give him a virtual round of applause.
Good morning, colleagues, faculty, staff, and students from Silliman University's many colleges and departments. Good morning to our audience members who may be from many industries and professions, who are SU TBI incubatees, who are company owners, entrepreneurs, or who are thinking about developing a startup or starting a business venture. I'm delighted to welcome you back to our webinar series, where we inspire and build our listeners' innovative and entrepreneurial thinking. In particular, to help them build their startups or businesses and reinforce their business ideas. Just a quick update of where we are in our webinar series. We are about to finish with our year-long series. We have 2 more remaining, but don't you worry if you just tuned in. You can still view the webinars on our Facebook sites or get a copy of the recording from the KTTO staff. This morning, we have 2 notable speakers who will offer their experience on how to make your business pitch, as well as how to organize and strategize your talks with stakeholders, partners, and investors. It is widely acknowledged that having a decent, or better yet, a perfect pitch, the topic of our webinar series today, can increase your startup company's chances of receiving support or even funding. If you're raising funds for your startup company or businesses, an excellent pitch and a pitch deck or presentation is an essential tool in your fundraising toolkit. A successful pitch deck piques the interest of potential investors and engages them in a discussion about your company, hopefully leading to an investment and partnership. Making a perfect pitch necessitates planning and practice. Making a perfect pitch takes a significant amount of time and work. You must ensure that your pitch is clear enough for your audience to comprehend, but yet engaging enough to capture their attention. Roman philosopher Seneca once said, "Luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity." If you prepare enough for your pitch, and when opportunity comes, rest assured that you will be a success. Our two speakers today will discuss the theories, methodologies, and activities that you will be doing in making your perfect pitch. They will also share their experience in conducting pitching and the challenges that you may encounter. We hope that at the end of this webinar and this webinar series, you will appreciate that establishing a business or startup entails more than simply offering an innovative product or service. It also entails a presentation of your startup or businesses to the community or investors by means of pitching. We also hope that you will be able to be inspired and apply what you have learned today. We hope that at the end or at the conclusion of this, not only at the university, but also in the community, we will have developed an innovative and entrepreneurial culture. So once again, welcome, and let our never-ending learning continue this morning.
All right. Thank you so much for that, Engineer Ostero. I hope that positioned your expectation in this webinar. And now at this juncture, allow me to introduce our first speaker. He finished his Bachelor's of Science in Computer Engineering at the University of San Carlos, Cebu City. He then proceeded with his Master of Management with major in Business Management at the University of the Philippines Extension Program in Olongapo, Subic Bay. Prior to entering the academe, he worked as a failure analysis engineering department supervisor for Wistron Infocom Philippines in Subic Bay, Olongapo. Eventually, he became the engineering department deputy manager of the same company. And in 2010, he became part of the Wistron Mexico SADCV in Mexico. He also took the role of operations manager for Prosa Hirose Manufacturing Incorporation in Cebu. He started his academic teaching career as an engineering instructor in 2015 at the University of Science and Technology of Southern Philippines, Cagayan de Oro. He was then appointed as the project head and project leaders of 4 vital projects granted to the university. These projects are the Technopreneurship Hub, which is the 12 million peso project funded by the Commission on Higher Education under the Institutional Innovation Grant. The second is the IP Management Program for Academic Institutions Commercializing Technologies, or IMPACT, which aims to capacitate and assist universities in setting up their technology transfer processes and facilitate commercialization of university-owned technologies. The third is Metals and Engineering Innovation Center, or MEIC, which is a collaborative program by the MIRDC that provides equipment to the university, and the PSHERD here at Regional Startup Enablers for Ecosystem Development, or RESEED program, which aims to establish the Mindanao Startup Ecosystem Transformation, or the Mindset North Mindanao consortium that aims to strengthen the startup ecosystem in the region. He was the former vice chancellor of the Research and Innovation in USTP CDO. Currently, he is the director of the Innovation and Technology Solutions divisions of USTP. Ladies and gentlemen, help me welcome our first guest speaker, Engineer Bronson Mabulay. A virtual round of applause. Good morning, sir.
Thank you, Sir Sydney, for that long introduction. Can I share my screen?
Yes, sir, you may.
Is it visible now?
Yes, sir.
Right. Thank you for inviting me, Silliman University, to Sir Clint and to Ma'am Foster for inviting me and sharing my experience in our CDO Bytes here, and as well as our technopreneurship program in the university. So the learning for today is actually you'll be able to know how startup funding works, what are the sources of funds, and why investors invest in your startup, and as well as piecing together the perfect pitch and crafting a perfect pitch deck. So usually this is the path of a startup. This is a cycle from the idea stage to the exit strategy. So it starts with an idea and finding a co-founder, in which most of you listening right now are at this stage. Sorry. Let me switch. Okay, sorry for that. Switch. My apology. Let me switch again. Okay, this one. All right. Is it okay now?
Sir, you're currently not sharing your screen.
Okay. Check. All right.
All right, there we go.
Right.
We can
All
see
right.
your screen now, sir.
Right. So let's go back. This is how startup funding works. This is a complete cycle from the idea stage to the exit strategy of a startup or a team. So as your idea progresses, your initial validation was positive. The customer or your potential users agree to use and wants to pay for your product. Your team wanted to move on to start building a prototype or an MVP. So as you approach your friends and your family to ask for a little funding to build the proof of concept, and as you gain traction, the next funding stage would be on the seed round, where you will meet fellow entrepreneurs, torn investors, and as they decide to invest in your company and in your team, and they wish you success. But for most startup, even with this amount of funding from the angels, for many, it's not enough to scale up. So that's why the next funding would be you're looking for a series of funding from venture capitalists. And there will be a lot of series like Series A, Series B, and so on. And after accumulating those funds down the years, investors also wanted the return of their investment. So there are two common ways how investors can get paid. Number one, through merger and acquisition. So either your company is being acquired or absorbed by a bigger company, or vice versa. So example of this is the acquisition of GitHub by Microsoft. And another, or the second way of having an exit strategy, is through the initial public offering, or IPO, where your company become public and listed in the Philippine Stock Exchange or any other stock exchange worldwide, where the general public can buy shares from your company. So these are the two ways investors wanted to get a handsome return of their investment. For many, decisions whether or not now is the right time to start a business comes down to funding. So you may have a wonderful business idea that you have validated, but it won't mean much if you don't have funding in place to make your business happen and as well as allow your business to succeed. So why do we raise money? It's for the purpose of buying equipment, renting office, or hiring staff, and most importantly, to grow fast. And where do you get those fundings? It's from your family or your friends or from private investors such as the angels or the venture capitalists, and as well as the investing public. Another important question that might be in your mind: why would investor invest in my team or in your startup? First, it's when your company already accumulated a substantial number of paying customers or your sales is trending up. That's what we call traction. Your startup already have a paying investors. A paying customers. Second, when investors see the potential of a big market for your products, this is a sure win for investors' money. And lastly, why would investors invest on your startup? Is if you're the former CEO of Google or one of your team member was, the trust of the investors that you'll take care of your company, and of course, their money is very high because of your reputation and those battle scars that you have accumulated through the years. And there are three possible ways to sell your idea or your company to investors. Number one is through elevator pitch. If you're stuck in an elevator with a potential investor, how would you sell your idea in 60 seconds? It is very essential for every startup to have an elevator pitch prepared. Second, a short form pitch is usually we witness during a pitching event, a demo day, or a pitching competition. And lastly, the long form pitch. This is a pitch where you'll share everything about your company to investors for serious funding consideration. Probably the reason you were invited in the investors boardroom, chances are they already heard about your company through elevator pitches or through a short form pitch. Now, let's discuss on how to design your presentation and arrange it in a most effective way. First, you have to frame your story. Your presentation is your story. It is the story of your company. And like all stories, it must be framed in a way that takes the audience through a journey from the unknown to the known. If you are successful, they will learn something new. Through your short presentation, your audience will hopefully discover the problem you've been trying to solve and why it is important for them to understand it and what you will do to solve it for them. So where to begin? Investors and customers often will be exposed to a dozen or different products or services every day. Your presentation will be the 30th they say in that hour. So you must give your audience enough context for the material you will be introducing to them. Do not assume they will immediately know what you're talking about. So context is important. And here's the biggest problem. Keeping your specific audience perspective in mind. Your audience will have different levels of knowledge about your industry. Some people are expert in software, renewable energy, engineering, but no one is an expert at everything. So as you construct your presentation, you will have to make sure your presentation speaks at all levels. You must educate those who knew nothing about your industry while keeping the interest of those who know a lot. So be provocative and interesting. Even the most uninterested person in the room will be forced to think about your story and make sure your message is understood. How to present yourself? First, you must qualify yourself as the storyteller. Great storytellers can immediately convince their audience to lean in and listen to their words. They somehow get everyone to believe that they have something important to say. For entrepreneurs, this means you must convince the audience that you are uniquely qualified to solve the problems you are solving, that you have the knowledge that they don't have, and that you will be sharing something special with them today. This is why many entrepreneurs introduce themselves and their teams before going into the main portion of their presentation, especially the entrepreneurs with specialized backgrounds. If you're a particle physicist and you build a quantum computer, you probably want to start with your credentials. Similarly, if you're a young student and you have invented a social network, you will want to start your story by reassuring the audience that only a student could have seen this opportunity. And this is how Mark Zuckerberg got Facebook funded. Essentially, everyone wants to know, how is it that you are the right person to tell the story of this new product and bring it to market? One note: simple stories are the most powerful. For countless generations, stories can only be passed down through the power of verbal storytelling. Nothing could be written down because writing was not invented yet. But only the most memorable details could survive thousands of years of retelling, which is why most of the oldest stories in history are so simple. You want to keep this in mind when constructing your story. So you want your narrative to be so simple that anyone who heard it could repeat it to someone else. This is crucial for your investors. Remember, investors do not invest without the opinion of other investors. And in order to get the opinion of other investors, they must be able to tell them your story. If it's too complicated for them to tell, they will retell it incorrectly, or worse, they won't retell it at all, leaving you without investors. So keep it simple and powerful. So there are three main ways to order your story. It could be a problem solution, market shift, or the theme. We call these narrative arcs. Our goal is to create an intriguing storyline. The problem solution narrative arc is the most popular with new entrepreneurs since it is very simple and everyone understands the relationship between problems and solutions. Presentations that use the market shift narrative arc usually begin with a discussion on how big the market is, especially if your solution addresses a market that is not well understood or is new. Finally, if your team is your biggest asset because you have a Nobel Prize or you're a former CEO of Google, then you will want your team narrative arc where you begin your presentation with your team slide. So play around with these narrative arcs. See which one will frame your story best. And once you have decided on a narrative arc, you will need to decide how to start your story. Will you start with your strength, or will you address your weaknesses head on? All companies, even the biggest and the most successful ones, have weaknesses. Your audience will want to know what are they, and if you're willing to acknowledge and address them. So some entrepreneurs address their weaknesses in their opening slide to show they are not afraid of them. If your solution has a great glaring problem, say a small market or an expensive production cost, you may want to address or acknowledge it right away. Finally, if you're speaking to a specific audience, say potential customers in the banking sector, you will want to tailor your presentation to what the bankers care about, and that is money. So in that case, you may want to move your revenue model slide closer to the beginning. So probably most of you will use the problem solution narrative arc. So let's take a look at this. First, you will want to begin with an interesting or provocative hook. You usually want to start the presentation with a surprising fact about the problem you want to solve. So one founder created a clean water solution and started his presentation with a simple slide and with a single number on it, 3 billion. He then informed the audience that the World Health Organization estimated that there are 3 billion people who do not have access to clean, drinkable water. They had to walk an average of 10 kilometers per day to reach a water source. This was a powerful opening that intrigued the audience because for most of them, this was a new information. He then quoted several more facts to convince the audience that it was a real problem, and then lifted his invention, a simple water filter, to show how this problem didn't have to be a problem anymore. Then he showed how it worked by pointing out the filtering mechanism and drinking the water. This was a very simple story told in a powerful way. Then he discussed how big a financial opportunity this water filter is and pointed out how today's competition were getting it wrong. This is an important point. You need to convince the audience that the opportunity is big and the competition can be beaten, and why now is the perfect time for this new solution. He ended his presentation by showing a slide of his extended team, which include an advisor in the World Health Organization. And if your core member or your core team lacks credentials, the best way to qualify your team is to bring on advisors or mentors with experience in the field. So we recommend that you end with an outline of your company's next steps. You need to show that you have a concrete plan for growing your business. So let's recap. Remember, you need to frame your story immediately. Give your audience context on your opening slide so they know what you will be talking about. Be provocative and interesting. Keep things simple. Qualify yourself so they believe you are the right team. And build that logical narrative. So here are some tips in creating your pitch deck. It's a 10-20-30 rule. 10 is the optimal number of slides in a PowerPoint presentation because a normal human being cannot comprehend more than 10 concepts in a meeting, and investors are very normal people. If you must use more than 10 slides to explain your business, you probably do not have a business. No more than 20 words per slide. It will make presentations better because it requires you to find the most salient points and know how to explain them very well. Lastly, a 30-point font size. The reason people use a small font is twofold. First, they do not know their material very well. Second, they think that more text is more convincing. As much text as possible is jammed into the slide, and then the presenters read it, and as soon as the audience figures out that you are reading the text, it reads ahead of you because they can read faster than you speak. The result is that you and the audience are out of sync. So here are the 10 essential slides or components in crafting your pitch deck. As I explain each of these, I will also present the sample Airbnb pitch deck. This slide talks about market opportunity, the problem slide. Either it's a new unsolved problem or it's a problem that has been solved, but you'll tackle it from a unique angle. The key to this component of your presentation is to convince would-be investors the legitimacy of the problem and ideally its intensity, a very painful problem, and its frequency. It's almost a daily occurrence to your users. State facts, interview results, and statistical data to support its validity. Concisely and clearly spend enough time to explain this part to your audience. So during the Airbnb inception, price is the top concern of their budget-conscious customers. Another one, that there is no single way to use, there's single easy to use platform to book accommodations. And for most tourists, it was important for them to be immersed in the culture of the locales, in which hotels clearly cannot provide. And in your pitch deck, articulate these problems or needs clearly, in a few words, but comprehensive. And in similar breath, you should be able to explain your solutions in details. Is it a website, an app, a platform? Talking about features is a mistake. Instead, talk about users' benefits, the pain relievers and the gain creators. Pains are the annoyance that you wanted to eliminate from your customers. Gains are the ambitions that people have. They are the things that ultimately make your customers happy. So Airbnb started as a web platform back then. How did the platform benefit their customers, the travelers and the host? Tourists were able to save money using the platform. Second, Airbnb provides extra income to households by renting off an unused room or an apartment. And one of the most important benefits for tourists, they were able to immerse with the culture of the locales. The third slide, the product slide. This should state the ways in how your company solves the problem for your customer or target customers. The best way to relay this information is to demonstrate how the product or service works, either through a wireframe demonstration or an actual demo of your product. So in the case of Airbnb, there are only 3 simple steps. Search by sites or by city, review listings, and book. and the job is done. Focus on empowering users to complete the task faster. When a user have a good experience, one of the first things they say what they like about your product is that it was fast. Since users equate fast with easy, therefore it is very important to make adjustment on your design to speed up user interactions and allow them to finish the task faster. The fourth slide is your target market. A target market is a group of people that share common characteristics. Use this slide to expand on who your ideal customer is and how many of them there are. What is the total market size and how do you position your company in the market? Rich target markets are better than poor target markets. Do they have the money to spend? So here's how to present the size of your market. It's the TAM, SAM, SUM. Find the market data or do your research because investor will want to know how much people or businesses currently spend in the market in order to get a sense of the total market size. This is where you tell the story about the scope and scale of the problem you are solving. It's tempting to try and define your market to be as large as possible. Instead, investors will want to see that you have a very specific and reachable market, the SOM and the SAM, or the serviceable available market or the serviceable obtainable market. In the Airbnb example, the total available market or the TAM is the number of trips booked worldwide. It's 2 billion plus bookings. But Airbnb is targeting specifically budget-conscious customers and doing online booking. This is their serviceable available market, which is 560 million people or bookings. But you're probably not the only business working in the space right now, since you have competitions. So realistically, you can hope to capture only a fraction of your SAM or serviceable available market. And this is what we call the share of market or the serviceable obtainable market. For the case of Airbnb, they capture only 15% of the 560 million bookings, and that is 80 million bookings. The next component is traction. The big questions that determines the success of your startup is the elusive product market fit. In other words, is your solution the right one for the problem in question? Do you have paying customers? Investors won't take your word for it. You need to provide them some form of proof. If your idea is in early stage, you need to show some form of idea validation. If your startup is at a later stage, you can show investors real usage or revenue figures, showcasing that you are on the right track to product market fit. Traction is a priority in your presentation. It changes the discussion from being a theory or being your idea to a reality. Now that you have described your product or service, you need to talk about how your startup makes money. What do you charge and who pays the bills? For some businesses, advertisers pay the bills instead of users. So it's important to flesh out the details here. In the market research of Airbnb, travelers book accommodation on the average of 3 nights per travel at $80 per night. Airbnb then take 10% of each transaction, earning them $25 per transaction. For them to get the projected revenue in 12 months, simply multiply the $25 by the serviceable available market of 84 bookings for the 2.1 billion revenue or projected revenue of your startup. In this case, this is the projected revenue of Airbnb way back 2011. So the next slide would be your competition. The number one mistake most startup founders make is saying that they do not have competition. Every startup has at least one competitor. This section should talk about other entities in the marketplace. What are your competitors doing? Moreover, what are they doing wrong? Describe how you fit into the competitive landscape and how you're different than the competitors and alternatives that are on the market today. What key advantages do you have over the competition? Or is there some secret sauce that you have and others don't? The key here is explaining how you are different than the players in the market and why customers will choose you. Here, Airbnb categorizes themselves in the affordable and online booking matrix versus other competitions in the competitive landscape map. The next component is your team. Why are you and your team is the right people to build and grow this company? What experience do you have that others don't? Highlight the key members, their successes at other companies, and the key expertise that they bring to the table. Even if you don't have a complete team yet, identify key positions that you still need to fill in and why those positions are critical to company's growth. Founders of Airbnb have complementary skill sets and expertise they brought to their company. Joe as their designer, Brian, the hustler or the business development, while Nathan is on technology. Finally, it's time to actually ask for the money. That's why you're doing this pitch deck, right? Potential investors do need to know how much money you're looking for. More importantly, you need to be able to explain why you need the amount of money that you are asking for and how you plan on using the money. Investors will want to know how their money is being spent and how is it going to help you achieve the goals that you are setting out for your business. Be sure to back it up, this number, with plenty of data and expert insights. You need to prove that your startup is worth investment or the investment. And this is the section to do it. Airbnb was asking $500,000 from an angel round in order to reach 80,000 bookings in 12 months. And that should be able to generate 2 million in revenue. Lastly, leaving an audience with a memorable statement that will impress them and grab their attention. Show them your plans. Don't forget to put your contact details in this deck. Having your contact information big and front and center means it can be captured with a screenshot. Snap with a mobile phone camera and jot it down in a hurry. I think that's all for me. Thank you for listening.
All right. Thank you so much for that, Engineer Bronson. So that talk was truly informative and was insightful, especially to the young innovators and entrepreneurs. Thank you so much for that again, sir. And at this time, please take this time for a 5 minute break to relieve yourselves. Maybe go to the bathroom or take a short breather before we continue on with our webinar. So, once again, everyone, you may take a short 5 minute break before we proceed to our next speaker. All right. I do hope that everyone is now relieved and at least relaxed. And at this juncture, allow me to introduce our second guest speaker. So he hails from the Department of Information and Communications Technology. He finished his Bachelor's of Science in Information Technology from St. Paul University, Dumaguete in 2012, and his Master of Development Communication from the University of the Philippines, Open University last December 2021. During his years in SPUD, he was the editor-in-chief of the monthly Polinian and the president of the Polinian Supreme Student Government. He was awarded one of the 10 outstanding students of the Philippines
Pero
of Central
nahuman naman ka
Visayas
naman di. Okay
in
ra gid ni continue
2012
para
and one of the 30 outstanding students of the Philippines National with the awarding held in the Malacanang Palace in the same year. He was also conferred in the YMCA Outstanding Students of Negros Oriental, and he then represented the country as a delegate in various international conferences, including Singapore, Malaysia, Japan, and India. So prior to joining the Department of Information and Communications Technology, he worked as a copy editor and technical support engineer in the IT operations department of a tech company in Dumaguete City for more than 2 years. He recently joined the teaching force of St. Paul University, Dumaguete, as a part-time college instructor teaching the IT subject, including IT fundamentals, desktop publishing, information security, and assurance. Currently, he is an Information Technology Officer 1 and the Region 7 focal of the ICT Industry Development Bureau, designated as the Public Information Officer of the office, and the lead administrator of VC2's FB page. In his free time, he is using the video sharing platform YouTube to discuss tech tutorials through his channel. Ladies and gentlemen, help me welcome our second guest speaker, Mr. Joshua Elizar Domen. A virtual round of applause.
Hi, thank you, Sydney. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
All right. Thank you.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning. It's nice to be back home, at least virtually. So as you all know, I am actually from Dumaguete, but is currently working now in Cebu. No? So thank you for the invite. So allow me to share my screen. All right. So while Sir Bronson, who actually happens to be a high school classmate of our director here, no, in the ICT, and a teacher of some of my colleagues here, talked about the generics. Hi, Sir Bronx. Regards though from Sir Rick and Sir Ivan, my colleagues here.
Right.
All right. So while Sir Bronx shared to us how to pitch generically, I am here to provide you some tips and provide you some overview of how to pitch from the government's perspective. So as you all know, I work in the ICT, and I work in the ICT Industry Development Bureau, which happens to actually to help fund startups, no? And so I'm here to discuss such. So if perhaps there are startups here who are struggling to find the angel investors, no, from the private sector to fund you in your MVP or in your product, then actually there is the government that might be of help to you. There are a lot of misconceptions, no, about the government helping startups or the government helping fund our potential startups, no. But I am here to actually help you, perhaps, and assist you in the best that I can give you on how the government can be of help to you. So now there are actually Philippine laws supporting innovation grants, and when I pitched the same, no, when I presented the same in a university here in Cebu, I was a bit surprised because they did not know that there are actually existing laws supporting and providing grants to our potential startups. And there was also a speaker, a foreigner, a foreign national, and he was invited as speaker for such. He was also surprised because we have these existing laws as compared to their country. He said that the Philippines is actually aggressive in terms of providing grants, no, of supporting our startups, because in his country now they don't have such, no. So we have two laws. We actually have RA 11337 and RA 11293. Now, for RA 11337, which is the Innovative Startup Act of 2019, there is a tripartite agreement for three agencies from the Philippines to help fund and support our budding startups. No, that is the ICT, DTI, and DOST. And this law is actually the one I am very familiar with, because our bureau is the one in charge for these funding opportunities. Now, the law aims to strengthen, promote, and develop an innovative and entrepreneurial ecosystem and culture in the Philippines. The Philippine Startup Development Program is composed of various programs, benefits, and incentives for startups and startup enablers. So if you're a startup here, and if in case you have not yet seen a potential investor to help fund your startup, then perhaps RA 11337 can actually help you. All right. So we work together, the ICT, DTI, and DOST, and we have a lot of initiatives and programs to actually fund our budding startups. Right. So this is the coverage of the Innovative Startup Act of 2019. I think I need not to define each of them, no? So let me check. Is my audio okay, Sydney? Can you check? I think I'm getting some feedbacks that
Yes, sir. Your audio is great.
my audio is okay.
Mhm.
I think we're getting responses now. My audio in Facebook now is not that loud, no. But here in Zoom, I'm okay, right?
Yes, sir.
All right, sige. So um, I need not to explain each of these items now, but what I wanted to highlight regarding sa Innovative Startup Act is that we provide these three agencies, the ICT, DTI, and DOST, provide grants to help our startups. Actually, DOST has been doing it since time immemorial. They've been providing grants, but it's only DTI and the ICT was started to provide grants in 2019, now as mandated by law. So by hook and by crook, or whether we like it or not, we have to abide the law, and we have to provide granting funds to grant, no, our startups. All right. Then the other law, RA 11293, is the Philippine Innovation Act of the same year in 2019, and it is now led by NEDA, partnered with DTI and DOST, along with DBM as well. No? So the law aims to foster innovation in the country as a vital component of national development and sustainable economic growth. So NEDA is authorized to issue innovation grants subject to the guidelines by NEDA and DBM for the public sector. So while the previous law is intended for startups, this Philippine Innovation Act of 2019 is for the public sector. So say, for example, there is a government entity like an NGA or LGU, no, who would like to produce an innovative product, and they wanted to be funded by the national government. So they can actually apply for this one, no, for the grants funded by RA 1120. So nevertheless, these two laws actually are a help, no, a big help to our innovators. If you have something in mind, if you have an idea, then these laws might be of help to you. No? So then these are the government grants. These are the programs and initiatives of the agencies to abide by such law in providing their individual grants. No? So we have from DOST, they have, or the PSHRD, no? The subgroup or sub-bureau in DOST, they provide their own grants, no? And there are also other sub groups in DI or in DOST that provide such grants. For DTI, they also have their own Startup Venture Fund or SVF, no? So they provide grants as well to startups. Then for DICT, under the DSDAP na program, we also have our own startup grant fund. While for NEDA and DBM, just lately, just recently, they issued a memorandum for the public sector wherein they can be granted funds, no, for as long as they belong to these entities from the government. So each of us actually, we have our own funding opportunities. And so with these government grants, there are actually um, two things that you have to consider. One, of course, is an accomplished application form, wherein each of these agencies actually has its own application forms that you have to fill up. All right. So individually, we have our own forms. And then another thing that you should consider is the pitch. All right. So it might come after the other, or they might come together. No, there are some agencies that once you accomplish your forms, then you also have to submit your pitch. But here in the ICT, you have to first submit your application form and then the pitch follows. So either way, you have to provide this for you to be granted funds. If you may ask, sir, can I be granted, or can I apply um, for a fund from DTI and also a fund from DICT? The answer is yes. You can apply for either, or you can apply for all of these agencies, but you will only be granted with one. No, that is why we are developing a startup portal wherein there should no be duplication of these funding opportunities. So once, say for example, you are granted already by DICT, then you cannot be granted anymore by DTI. All right. That is to give chances, no, for other startups as well, if in case they have ideas that they wanted to be funded. No? So we give chances to others as well. Now the question is how to win and be funded. No? So actually, Sir Bronx already has shared it a while ago, but for my presentation, this would actually be more specific to be funded and to win a grant coming from the government or from the public sector. No, for the grant providing institutions like DTI, DOST, DICT, and NEDA. All right. First is you have to prepare your team and you have to prepare the material. So there are two kinds of pitches that might be asked from you, no, as a team. It is either the recorded video pitch or the live pitch, or it could actually be both. No? But before going there, please do remember that you must be composed of a team. No, there should be a hacker, hustler, and hipster. Now, usually, the one who provides the pitch is not the hacker nor the hipster, but it is the hustler. No? Sa ato pa siya ang mura og maboka, no? Or he or she is the one presenting in front of the panel. He or she is the one promotes or advocates through his or her words, no? And he or she is the one convincing in behalf of the team or in behalf of the group. No? Now, remember to really strictly follow the guidelines. Say, for example, you're asked for a recorded video pitch and it must only be from 3 to 5 minutes, no, maximum of 5 minutes. Please never go beyond, no, just really strictly follow the rules, because chances are the panelists would not consider your pitch because it is beyond time. Now, so this is an example or a comparison of a good pitch and a bad pitch, right? So let's hear it. So please do this.
Paalala, ang Propan TLC ay hindi gamot at hindi dapat gamitin panggamot sa anumang uri ng sakit.
So I hope you have heard it. No? That is the normal, no, tone that you should consider when providing a recorded pitch. So guys, never do this.
Paalala, ang Propan TLC ay hindi gamot at hindi dapat gamitin panggamot sa anumang uri ng sakit.
So, do you get the comparison? This is the normal.
Paalala, ang Propan TLC ay hindi gamot at hindi dapat gamitin panggamot sa anumang uri ng sakit.
And this is the not so good.
Paalala, ang Propan TLC ay hindi gamot at hindi dapat gamitin panggamot sa anumang uri ng
Alright,
sakit.
so what happened is that, say for example, because by experience, we actually have experienced this, a certain team or a certain group, in order to squeeze in the 3-minute allotted time for their recorded pitch, what they did was they increased the speed. So mura paspas na kayo, mura nag-alien ang sound na, and it has been noted by one of the panelists to never do such thing, because it would actually, the panelists would actually be catching up with the speed rather than really paying attention to what you are pitching. So please do it in a normal tone, never speed up, and always remember to eliminate those things that must be eliminated. Maybe you don't prepare your pitch na once lang and then you are good to go. Always remember to just choose the ones that are needed. All right.
Paalala, ang
Okay. Now moving on, start with the problem you are trying to solve. Remember that all startups are businesses, but not all businesses are startups. And so while you are trying to convince the public sector or the government to fund your product, remember that the fund that will be used is the taxes of the citizens. And so most probably, the government would consider startups that try to solve social issues and social problems. And with that, the first thing that you must consider in your pitch deck is the problem that you are trying to solve. So this is a comparison of a good introduction or a good beginning for your pitch versus a bad one. Let us first start with a good one. So here it goes. The Philippines, despite being blessed with rich natural resources, reels from food scarcity. The social weather stations has reported that over a tenth of all Filipinos, or about 2.5 million families, had suffered from involuntary hunger during the last quarter of 2021. The country has a hunger rate of 13.1%. That's how the pitch started. It started with a problem that the team is trying to solve. Versus this one, we are a newly formed startup company composed of various online freelancers that brought our passions together. We are experts in data mining in the deep web and can assure you that with proper handling of information, all Filipinos experiencing hunger will be eradicated. So if you compare the two, which has the more weight? The first one or the second one? If you ask me, coming from the public sector, I would prefer the first one, stating the problem immediately. Knowing that we are working in the government, we would like to first know the problem that you are trying to solve. With all the problems the country faces now, what are you trying to solve? Rather than introducing yourselves, from where you belong. So that's how you start the pitch. Next, an effective pitch usually has the following. All right. The problem description, as you have noticed earlier, it is the problem that we have to begin with. Then the target market segment. Who is your intended target market? Who do you want to help? Or which customers would you want to take into consideration? Next is the solution. This is where your product comes in. What solutions would you provide to address and solve the problem that you have mentioned earlier? Then here comes the features. What are the features of your product? What is its competitive advantage if there is already an existing solution in the market and you are trying to compete with it? So what are the features and what is your advantage from those? Then you can also share your progress or traction if it is available And also, which is also an important, is the proposed use of funds. So say, for example, an agency is giving you an opportunity of 500,000 peso grant. So how do you want to use it? How do you want to fractionate such funds that the government agency is trying to give you? Will you use 100,000 for this, no? Or will you use this for the salary of your programmers or developers, perhaps? So you have to state that. Now, use infographics as visual aids, not a mouthful of text. So this is a comparison of two presentations. The first one is a worthy, no, a mouthful of texts, while the second one uses infographics. So if I were to ask you, which one would you prefer to follow? No, if someone is speaking, the first one with a lot of text, or the second one, which summarizes into graphics the information that they wanted to convey. If you were to ask me again, coming from the government sector, I would prefer the second one. Now, make a pitch and use words that is understandable by many, if not all. All right, so don't skip on basic explanations. So coming from the government side, there might be some words that we won't be able to understand. No, so you have to keep it simple on how you explain such things. You don't have to use highfalutin jargons to impress, perhaps. No, perhaps the hustler would want to use words that are not common to impress the panelists. No, but we don't actually need such. No, we just need a basic understanding of what you wanted to convey. So just make use of basic words to explain your side, because that might make you or break you. No, your jargons might not be something understood by us, and so chances are you can't get that funding. Right. Now, number 6, do not make your pitch the first and last day of your practice. There have been instances that pitches have been the last day of rehearsal for a team, or the first day of rehearsal of the team, and so they are lost. So always make it a habit to practice your pitch. Now, don't make the pitch boring. Of course, you have to catch the attention of your panelists, no? And you have to convince the panelists to fund you. And so please do not make it boring. And how do you make it more lively is, number 1, make eye contact, especially if you are doing a live pitch, no? There should be a contact between you and the panelists, no? For them to get impressed that you really are serious in the fun that they are trying to give. Next is tell your story. Perhaps, especially if you are trying to say the problem that you are trying to solve, no? Maybe it is from a personal point of view. Maybe you have experienced such problem. Then you have to tell such a story to make it more engaging, no? And also use interactive techniques, especially in live pitches. When we say interactive, there must be a response coming from the panelists. No? So perhaps you can ask questions, you can ask some points, and they could actually wanted to answer. So make it interactive so that there is engagement. No? There is a recall. Once the pitch is over, your panelists, while deciding, can get a recall, no, through such interaction. Now, remember to pause, especially if it is a recorded pitch, no? Perhaps for you to try to squeeze in 3 minutes or 5 minutes what you wanted to say and what you wanted to present in your product. Remember to pause, no? Because the panelists also would like to breathe in and breathe out. And so always remember that there are pauses that you have to consider, no? Because you might be saying a lot of information. There is already an information overload na, and so the panelists could not grasp it anymore. So remember to really pause. Now, don't read from your slides or pitch deck. The pitch deck is just a help for you, no? But really, do not put a lot of texts in your slides, but rather make it an assistance lang, no? So really, it's really important to include infographics, no? Because if you would put a lot of your information in your pitch deck, then better yet, you need not to pitch anymore. You just have to submit your slides and your pitch deck. But that should not be the case, because you have to convince verbally your panelists. Now be open to questions and criticisms. So acknowledge. So this is a pro tip, no, in the challenge that we do, or in a program that we do, in a competition that we do. Acknowledge and thank the panelists for asking the question, even if the question is really hard. No, remember to thank him or her for asking the question. This will actually also give you time to think, no, while you are still thinking of an answer. It will allow your subconscious to think of an answer to the question, no, while you are thanking them or saying your gratitude to them. And also be open to criticisms as well, no. These are actually feedbacks for you to improve. If you won't be able to get the fund at the first time, then perhaps on the next time that you will be doing the pitch again, then you are more ready to answer them. Now check your website if you have a website and contact information, because chances are once panelists are impressed with your presentation and they would want to contact you, please make sure that your contact information are available and working, because it so happened already that one panelist or one judge of a certain competition has been impressed, although the team didn't win in this competition. He's been impressed and would want to become an angel investor. What so happened was the contact information wasn't serviceable. No, it wasn't. The team could not be conducted. So aside from, as what Sir Bronx has shared, to include your contact information, make sure that it is working. All right. Then the end of a pitch is just the beginning of everything. Whether you pass and go to the next stage, or whether you be granted with such fund, remember that the end of a pitch is not really the end of your presentation, but rather it might be the beginning. It could be the start of a wonderful startup journey because you have been granted, or if not, then it could be a lesson that you have learned, no? For you, perhaps there are improvements that you have to do. There are suggestions or recommendations that the panel has shared to you. Then take that into consideration. So feedbacks are really important. Now, what a pitch is and what it's not. No, there are a lot of misconceptions about a pitch, especially when you pitch for a government support. All right, so let us try to answer those misconceptions and to differentiate what a pitch is and what it's not. So a pitch is a conversation. It is a dialogue between you, as the startup or as a team trying to ask for government support or government funding, and the panelists that you wanted to ask for support. So remember, the government is funding you not through their personal money of those members of the team or of the panel, but rather from the taxes of the citizens. And so perhaps we can be stricter, in terms of giving funding opportunities, most especially because this is the money of the people. And so we would give it to someone or to a team that is just and that could actually solve problems of the country. And so if this is a conversation, if this is a dialogue, remember that you are not the only one talking here, all right? You might be the first one to speak and to talk, but always remember that the panelists are also part of the conversation. And so you have to listen to them as well, all right? Now, a pitch is an opportunity to introduce your idea to a panel with a limited time. Okay, so there is a given time for you to pitch, and so you must make use of the time well. So it is an avenue for you to introduce your idea. No? So really make the time worthwhile. So a pitch is a composition of technical and entrepreneurial aspects of the product or service. So there are times when only the technical aspects of the product or services being presented. But remember that the business verticals of such should actually also be taken into consideration. No, so the entrepreneurial aspects. How do you earn? What is the business model? No, in so and so years, what is the traction or progress? So you have to take that into consideration. No, not only the technical aspects on how to use this, or what are the technical compositions of such, what programming language are you using. That is not actually important, especially if the panelists would want to know how you will be growing as a startup team, right? So a pitch is a lot of statistics rolled into one. No, a good pitch deck actually has a lot of statistics and a lot of numbers that have been transformed into infographics. No, so the panelists would actually want to know the statistics behind. No, so a pitch is not just a presentation of the technical aspects, and so the business verticals should also be considered. And so with the statistics on how you'll be growing should also be considered when you prepare a pitch deck. Now, a pitch is not a product demo. Okay, common misconception is that what is included in a pitch is how you navigate your perhaps mobile application, or how you use the mobile app. No, but that is actually wrong. It is not a product demo, not unless the panelists would want you to demonstrate your product, then so be it. But in a regular pitch, you do not show how your product is used or utilized, right? Now, a pitch is not as extreme as pitching shows are. Perhaps some of you have seen Dragon's Den or Shark Tank or The Apprentice, which are actually reality pitching shows. No? And the investors perhaps or the panelists there are kind of strict, no? And they're kind of horrifying, especially that they are owners or CEOs of businesses, of really big time businesses. But that is not the same case with a government grant, no? Although these pitching shows are really extreme, no? We are the panelists in the government are a lot tame actually, because they are not CEOs. Now, although they are VIPs or C-level positions in the government, but they are not owners of establishments, of their own establishments providing you grants. But these are actually funding coming from the budget of the taxes paid for the people or by the people. And so let's erase that misconception. No? Perhaps some of you are raising your eyebrows that government fundings are hard, no? Or the people behind would be those in the shows like Dragon's Den or Shark Tank, but that is not the case, right? So a pitch is not a talent show, no? Rather a skill show, no? It is not like the moving a Pitch Perfect, wherein you have to show all your talents that you have in singing or dancing or whatsoever. But it is rather a skill show where you have to show your soft skills and your hard skills. All right. So an effective communicator would actually pitch very well. No? So with that, allow me also to introduce the Philippine Startup Challenge, now wherein perhaps there are students here who are joining us, and I actually appreciate you for joining us today, even if the sauna is going on right now. You are still here with us listening. So the Philippine Startup Challenge, now in its 7th year, is a nationwide annual pitching competition for student-based ICT startup founders with an overall goal to reinforce Filipinos to create innovative and relevant ICT products and services, providing solutions to social problems. So this is a pitching competition now in its 7th year, and we actually encourage students, especially I'm seeing some student participants here now coming from various universities, and we also have faculty or teachers joining us today. So moms and sir, allow me to promote the Philippine Startup Challenge to you right now. The target participants are aspiring students whose startups are between the stages of ideation to MVP or minimum viable product. So it doesn't mean wala pa mo'y product, no? You cannot join here anymore. That is wrong. Even if napa mo sa idea stage, if you're still on the stage of thinking, no, there is no actual product, then you could actually join in this competition. But if you already have, perhaps you have a thesis or capstone project and you wanted to submit that as an entry, then so be it. But regardless, an idea will actually do as an entry submission. What are the requirements? There is a registration through a portal that we will be sharing one of these days. Then there must be a video pitch of 3 to 5 minutes. There is also a pitch deck in PDF format that you have to submit as well. What are the video pitch guidelines? The duration is 3 to 5 minutes. The content should include the following: problem description, target market segment, solution, features, progress, traction, and proposed use of funds. So this is the criteria that are considered: viability, relevance, impact, creativity, and presentation. So there is the composition of the team is a three student member team plus 1 mentor. So either senior high school or college level, we accept such. If you ask us what if it is a composition of both senior and college, it is okay for as long as they belong to the same school. And the mentor must be employed in the same school or university, regardless if he is a teacher or not. Perhaps he is the TBI manager, or perhaps he or she is the manager of the Fab Lab that is hosted in the school, that can actually that will do, no? So what is in store actually for the students or for the winning teams, no? Well, pre-pandemic, before the pandemic hit, there is actually an all expenses paid trip to China, no? To study about startups. But since pandemic hindered us to travel, there are vouchers, cloud vouchers, and devices coming from our partner, no, in providing such. All right, so more details will follow actually. If in case you wanted to contact me, then my email address is shown, and that ends my presentation. Back to you, Sydney.
All right, thank you so much for that, Sir Joshua. And yeah, at least, sir, you actually told everyone that there is a grant for that can support the startups, and of course, for other new ideas, they can just contact you for that, right, sir?
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
and at this juncture, may I call on one of our team for the question and answer portion, which is the what the participants are actually waiting for. So may I call on Chris to please join us during the Q&A session. And we actually received some questions from the audiences earlier. So let us start with the question that I have right here. Any one of you can answer, either Sir Engineer Bronson or Sir Joshua. Would you advise a startup to pitch to investors even if the startup does not have attraction yet? Or what if the startup is just a mere idea and not yet a working prototype? If anyone of you can answer that, sir.
Just sige. I'll do it first. So I think the first thing that that team should be able to do is validate the problem first. There should be a data or some statistics that there is really a problem, and identified the segment or the customer segment who are affected, and they also agreed that this could be the potential solution to that problem, meaning a validation from the target customer. So even though they are still on the way of constructing the prototype, but as long as they were able to present that to potential investors that the problem is really a big problem and this is the big market, probably a potential investor would take a look on that one, but it's not a guaranteed of funding. Usually the startup we can call sustainable is if they have paying customers. So we have a barrier. If you're a team, we need to break that barrier, get a paying customer. And while after you get that paying customer, probably an investors would like to invest in your startup. But for now, at this stage, you have to validate the problem.
Yeah, and to add to that, no, it actually depends as well on who you pitch. No, there are investors or angel investors that are open to ideas to be pitched rather than the product, since there are investors who would help you in creating such a solution. And so it actually depends. Here in our Philippine Startup Challenge, our ideas would do. No, ideas would do even if there is no MVP. No, so you don't have attraction or progress that you can present. No, so it is okay. So it actually depends.
Thank you for that, sir. Let me just also acknowledge the comments that were sent through the chat box. Let me just read them. So I think confidence and enthusiastic passion is what investors are looking for when they try to filter pitches. That means beyond content, it's on the delivery that matters. We also have a follow-up comment to that. I think passion, presence, enthusiasm, and confidence follows naturally if your startup is something you believe in. But it helps to have a good hustler to do the pitch, as mentioned in the earlier slide. So, Sir Bronson or Sir Joshua, maybe you have a comment to those as well.
Yeah, thank you, Christiana. That is actually true, no? The hustler really plays an important role for the team. Although each one of them, the hustler, the hipster, and the hacker has its own role, but the hustler really has a very important role, especially in pitching. No, maybe he or she is not really in depth to the source code, no, which the hacker does, but it is the hustler could actually make it or break it for the team. So we really have to find a very good hustler to represent in behalf of the team, especially during pitches. Sir Bronson, maybe you have something to add?
Yeah, right. Startup actually gained notoriety with the term of fake it till you make it. So I believe in these times when investors are really tight on the money, tight on the fund, we always go back to my presentation earlier. If the investors would always want, do you have paying customers already? Second is, how big is this opportunity? How big is the market? If you can present to investors that 50 million out of 110 million Filipinos is going to need your product, then that's a big opportunity for investors. And the third is, of course, if you are a new entrepreneur starting a venture, probably you don't have a reputation yet. But once you already have, you are a former founder, and first or two or third startups already sold or being bought out by other companies or went to an IPO. So probably you have the reputation now. Your team is being notorious now of a good startup founder being trusted now by investors. So I think we could still being a conservative on the side of funding or investors. I think those three would still work into this business landscape or environment.
Thank you for that, sir. I think Sir Gabriel is raising his hand. Sir, you can go on cam, sir, or apo. Unmute na lang.
Can I just, yeah,
Sige po, sir. Go ahead.
hello? Yes. My video cam is having problems with the Zoom meeting. I apologize for that one. I have a question for Sir Bronson.
Yes, go ahead. Yeah, go
Most
ahead.
of your was mentioning towards the quantity of Filipinos being addressed. Would it also be applicable if we're talking only quantity of money alone and not the amount of market numbers of people, but not rather in terms of how much capacity the market has in terms of money alone?
Yeah, right. Thank you for that question, for clarification. Yeah, there are two ways to identify traction or market. Number one could be the number of users engaged or using your product, or it could be the revenue that your company was able to get or sales. Let's say, for example, if you're a startup engaging in a business to business, definitely there are only a few businesses in your portfolio. Unlike if you are directly selling your product to a consumer, there will be a lot. That's one way to get also present your traction, meaning revenue from another business.
All right, sir. Thank you so much. I think that makes perfect sense.
Thank you very much, Sir Bronson and Sir Joshua. We do have another question. I think maybe Sir Joshua, you can answer this one. What is the schedule for RA 11337 funding proposals? And do we have a maximum limit for submission of proposals or pitch?
Yeah, thank you for that, Kristen. So actually, it's ongoing now, no? Especially for DTI. Their startup venture fund is even in their Series B and Series C fundings already. For DOST, they've been doing it since time immemorial. Actually, even if the law has not been enacted yet in 2019, they've been granting funds as already before such time. Now for DICT, we are still on, how do you call this? We are still on the process of finalizing the guidelines. No, even I believe Sir Gabriel is also a grantee, no, for our startup grant fund. The one who asked earlier, no, to Sir Bronx. Now we are still finalizing our guidelines, but nevertheless, one of these days, no, as we have finalized it, we can provide you the guidelines, and so it is important, no, to our participants, especially those who are residing from Region 7, to follow perhaps our Facebook page, because it is there where we provide the guidelines on how our teams or our startups can actually partner with us to be granted with such funds. No, but for other agencies, DTI and DOST, they have their own guidelines, no, that they have already set, and they can actually approach them, these respective agencies. I believe they also post their announcements, no, of their funding opportunities in their respective Facebook pages and websites, so they can try to check on them from time to time for these funding opportunities. And what was the other question again?
Yes, we have a follow-up to that, sir. Do you have programs for newbie entrepreneurs on how to improve their pitch, specifically in preparing for the statistics part?
For DICT, we currently don't have one, but I believe DTI has some trainings and some webinars on how to present, especially the statistics parts. And I believe there are also other agencies where they provide such, no, on how to create infographics that can help. Now this is a generic training, no, for in creating infographics, not necessarily for startups alone.
Thank you very much, sir. We have one more question.
I believe
Yeah, a rejoiner for Joshua, no? I think TBI would play a bigger role here in helping our startup try to craft their proposal for DUST DTI Startup Grant Fund. In here in Cagayan de Oro, we were able to, or successfully, the DUST actually successfully grant one startup here in Cagayan de Oro with the help, of course, of TBI. They are the one actually crafting on the proposal. And for other universities who wanted to join on the DICT, I'm quite familiar with this because we've been participating also. The university is participating in Region 10 for DICT for students. Again, they could reach out, the schools or universities could reach out to Silliman University in order for them to have a workshop on how to prepare their pitch and all of that sort in order for them to be really in the competition. So I think the TBI should play a bigger role here in the region as well.
Yes. Yeah, I do agree, sir. For startups, I think it is advisable to, connect with your incubators in the area or the TBI, like you mentioned earlier, sir. So we can accommodate one more question. How about team dynamics? I think this is the trickiest one, wherein the team is one with the vision. Mostly this is not the case. Innovation is a buzzword with lots of meaning for our speakers. What is your definition po ba of innovation, and what is the importance of this word in startups?
Yeah, I think the team dynamic is very important. Before signing that term sheet from the investors, they should already know what are their shares in the company, because it's very difficult. Like, for example, investors already put money onto the team, and then suddenly after 1 year, one founder quit. So there's a big hole. Let's say, for example, if that percentage is 20% of the company, equity of the company. So no investors would will want to put money again onto that startup because the 20% is a big hole that need to be answered. So I think the team dynamics is very important before signing that term sheet. The founder understand what are their rules, and it would be a good advice also that the let's say each of you have 25% share of the company. It would be what we call staggered ownership. Let's say, for example, in the first year, you will receive only 5%. On the second year, you would get another 5%. So that they want the incident I'm mentioning, that suddenly a founder after 1 year quits, at least we mitigate the problem of that ownership.
Thank you, sir. Sir Joshua, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah. Well, as a team, a team is made up of individuals with his or her own ideas and his or her own stand. But it's really important that the members would agree that there is there is something that they connect with, no, especially in team dynamics. And so it is really important to really it's important to assign a specific role for each team member. If he is the hacker, if he is the hipster, or if he is the hustler, no, it is really important for them to really group accordingly, or to take the role accordingly. Because and communication is really important, no? Because at the end of the day, whether you have your own stand, you must really agree into a certain point or into a certain agreement, especially before you go with your pitch, or else it would actually break you. Now, as regards innovation, yeah, innovation is really a buzzword, and there are really a lot of definitions for such term. And I think competitive advantage is also something synonymous with innovation, because there are some teams that that uniqueness is holding them back, no? Because before they pitch or before they present their idea, they would be taken aback because they would think na this idea is already present in the market, or this is not unique, no? Say for example, the market now is saturated with a lot of e-commerce platforms like Shopee or Lazada, but competitive advantage is really important for innovation. So what is in your product, what is in your service that is an advantage from all those existing products now in the market? So do you use cryptocurrency, no, as an avenue for your customers to pay, no? So that is already innovation. So do not be taken aback. Some advice, no, for our startups: do not be taken aback on how unique your product is, because in the Philippine Startup Challenge as well, uniqueness is not really given importance, no, or emphasis, but rather competitive advantage. So thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Before we proceed to the next, maybe you have some few last words, no, for or advices for our participants today. Sir Joshua, Sir Bronson.
Or I say, I'll take it first na lang, Sir Bronson. So we actually have a consortium right now with synergy with SUTBI and with also the agencies that I have mentioned earlier that support government grants, no? So we hope and we really seek for everyone's support for this consortium, wherein we will try to provide programs, and we'll try to provide initiatives within the region to make the startup ecosystem in the region very healthy. And so this August 10, actually, we have the startup ecosystem mapping for Dumaguete. We had our pre-assessment a couple of days ago or last week. And so this August 10, we'll be doing it there in Mariano Lao, no, na ICI Lab. So we hope that if there are startups here joining us, then they can join as well, for us to create a roadmap, no, for the next 3 years on how we can improve our ecosystem mapping. And so if you also have ideas, no, really, we need that. The government needs your ideas. And so do not hesitate to reach out to us. Thank you.
Yes, for students and faculty here who wanted to start on their startup journey, I think if you're in Dumaguete, I think you look for or you reach out to Silliman University, because they have that TBI that could help them on their journey. You might even as well enroll in their TBI cohort. For students participating, might as well look for a mentor from Silliman University, because that's the big brother in Dumaguete city. So I think just reach out if you need advice to do TBI, because they really have the capacity to guide you on your journey to become an entrepreneur, and as well as getting grant from the DOST, DICT, and DTI.
All right. Okay. Thank you so much for your insights and advices, Sir Joshua and Sir Bronson. And that concludes our Q&A session. And at this juncture, allow me to present to you our certificates of our appreciation to our guest speakers. So let me read the citation. So the certificate of appreciation is presented to Engineer Bronson Mabulay for sharing his insights and knowledge as guest speaker during the virtual webinar entitled Making the Perfect Pitch on July 25, 2022 via Zoom, signed by Mrs. Janice Antoniette Forster, MIT MBA, PSU TBI Manager, and Engineer Clint Ian Ostero, our SU ITSO Manager and KTTO Project Leader. Thank you so much, Sir Bronson, for giving us the time and sharing your expertise and knowledge for today. And also the same citation is also given to Sir Joshua Domen. Once again, sir, thank you so much for giving us the time and your knowledge to today's webinar. Okay, and at this time, for a quick photo opportunity, may I request everyone to please turn on your web cameras and please wear your best smile, for one of our team members will take the photo. So just go ahead and give us your best smile.
Okay, so we'll just give time to settle everyone. Okay, we have two boards. I will start with the first board. Okay, for the first board, 3, 2, 1, smile. Now for the second board. Okay, 3, 2, 1, smile. Okay, I got that. Thank you very much. Thank you for joining us today.
All right, thank you so much for that, June. And at this time, on to our webinar survey link. And of course, attendance, you may check the Zoom chat for that. It will be pasted there. So just please go ahead and answer our surveys if ever you want more recommendations and other important matters. So at this juncture, for our next webinar series, please refer to the calendar for this coming August. We will be conducting an awareness webinar on business sustainability. So please follow our official Facebook pages to get updates of these in the following days. And once again, thank you so much, everyone. I hope you learned something today. And of course, you may use that learning and new knowledge, to further strengthen on making your perfect pitch. So once again, thank you so much. And I hope you all have a great day. Thank you, Sir Bronson and Sir
Bye-bye.
Joshua. Till the next
Thank you
time.
also.